Hi, I'm Tamara, and this is TELUS Talks with Tamara Taggart. Hi, everyone. I'm very excited to have today's guest here with us. Tara Moore is an inspirational writer and speaker. She teaches women how to live in alignment with life and play big in the world. Tara has been featured on The Today Show, Goop, The New York Times, Oprah.com, and lots more. I am a frequent visitor to her website. Tara, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
It's such perfect timing for so many women to discover you. You talk about playing big. Your book is called Playing Big. What does it mean to play big?
Yeah, I think that's the great question to start with, because often when women hear the term play big, and especially in these times, we're like, I'm so exhausted already. I'm overwhelmed. I'm trying to get me and maybe our family through the day. I'm not really up for playing bigger. But my definition of playing big is that playing big is being more loyal to your dreams than to your fears. Playing big is being more loyal to your dreams than to your fears. So we've all got dreams for our career, for the contribution we want to make, for how we want to move through our lives. And then we've got our fears of the unknown, of all kinds of things that come up. And the question is, where are we putting our loyalty and whose side are we getting on? So that's what playing big means in the work that I do with women. And that also means it's really individual. So each woman has to really determine for herself what playing big looks like. And it may or may not be something that looks big to others.
Sometimes it's hard we don't even know what our dreams are because we're so busy in the minutia of what women do when we work and we look after our home and everybody in it and all the other things that we take on.
Well, I'll say that every time over the past 10 years of doing this work, someone has said to me, a woman has said to me, I don't really know what I want. We just need to ask some questions over the next 90 seconds and we'll get 100% clear on what she wants. So we often think we don't know what we want, but that can be because, one, we're really uncomfortable admitting it. It's scary, it's painful, it's going to involve change. Maybe it's something our parents really wouldn't have approved of. It can be that we don't want to admit it. It can be that the thing we really want, and this is really common, we've decided is so unrealistic that it was just an irrational thought. It can be that we've compartmentalized it for some other reason. So usually if I ask people, okay, yeah, but what's the thing that, like, sometimes the idea that wisps through your head, or you have a faint image of something and you dismiss it, or you think that couldn't be it, there's something there. And that's what we want to start working with. You don't need to have a whole plan about how you're going to get there either. Sometimes people think, if I don't know the plan, I can't see all the steps, that means I don't know what I want. But the plan is totally different, actually, than knowing what you're longing for.
Do you find that with the women that you see, there's a certain age group that you see the most, or is it all over the map?
Yeah. So that, all the work I do started when I had a one-on-one coaching practice. So I had just decided to leave a former career in the social sector. And I was really interested in working with people in their inner lives. For a long time, I had been sort of spending all my spare time learning about psychology and spiritual traditions as well. And when I started working with clients, I had clients literally from their 20s through their 60s, mostly women. And yet, despite that huge age range, again and again, I saw the same thing in my coaching practice, which was brilliant, thoughtful, conscientious women with a lot to contribute, very burdened by thoughts of, but I'm not ready to do that yet. If that was a good idea, someone else would have said it already. I'm not qualified for that. And I was so struck by that phenomenon. Now I know, the research shows us that that's actually the case, that executive women in the corporate world don't have confidence levels that are different than entry-level women in the corporate world. So a lot of the issues we're grappling with remain the same if we don't have tools to deal with them.
And so is it the same as imposter syndrome? Or is
So
that totally different?
it's not totally different. I have tended to not use the term imposter syndrome because it implies it's a syndrome that some people have and some people don't. And I have yet to meet anyone who was socialized as female in the culture who doesn't deal with these self-critical thoughts. And, the research tells us it's not that women experience more self doubt than men in general, but we experience self doubt around the things that the culture has told us are associated with maleness. So, leadership, financial things, negotiation, scientific work. For most of us, that's where that voice is going to show up most incisively and insidiously.
Right. And so when we're talking about playing big and like I said, I to you before we started recording, I'm almost finished your book, and so much of it resonates with really with every woman I know that I've recommended your book to, because and it, that we all feel the same, and we all have these fears, and we're scared of our dreams for some reason, and we're scared to play big. It must be in the way we're raised.
Yeah, I think there's like a universal level that is even deeper than how we're raised, and then there's a cultural level. So the universal level, I would say, is that it's scary to for all of us to do things that are out of our comfort zone, to be vulnerable. And going for our dreams is vulnerable. Because think about, if you've taken a job that you're like, I'm not passionate about the field, I'm not passionate about the company, I'm not passionate about my role. The downside of that is that the passion is lacking. The upside is things aren't going to be very high stakes or scary for you, right? But if you're really doing the work you love, or you just wrote the novel you really wanted to write, or you've always wanted to sing and now you're going to that open mic night, that's going to be really, really vulnerable. And that's true for all of us. So that's the kind of elemental level of why it's scary to play big. Then there's the cultural level, which is what have women been taught is dangerous? What have girls specifically gotten the message is something to be scared about? Well, we learn if we raise our hand too much in class and we get the answer too right, we're arrogant. We're the goody two shoes. We learn if we assert our opinion, the boys or maybe the other girls are going to be teasing us about being bossy. We learn if we're not super skinny, we're going to be shamed for it. So there's all these other layers of when we begin to take up space and be visible and share our voices as women, we're doing things that basically at some level we've been taught are very dangerous, if not life threatening. And so that's another then layer of the fear we have to work with.
Okay, let's talk about chrysalis time. So you have a letter that goes out, or an email that goes out, and you had one a few weeks ago called the chrysalis time. I forwarded it to probably 100 people, and every single person responded back and said, "Oh my gosh, this is brilliant." What is the chrysalis time?
So the chrysalis is that stage in between the caterpillar and the butterfly, right? Where the caterpillar is in the cocoon and the caterpillar has to dissolve and become very goopy, undefined mess before it moves into its next form. And that can be a really powerful metaphor for us when we're thinking about the transitions that we move through in our lives. And what our ego would love, and the security seeking part of us would be if we could just hop from point A to point B with no messy in between. I was a lawyer. Now I'm an abstract artist. I was, married. Now I'm a happily single person, right? But in fact, there is this messy middle stage. And often in the middle stage, we don't know exactly what we want the future to look like, or we have some, like we were talking before, we might have some vague sense, maybe just a few pictures or a few qualities we want the future to have for us, but we don't know the literal of what it's going to look like or how to get there. And it can be very hard to be patient with ourselves. I think, one of the lines in that piece is, it's hard to go to cocktail parties during this time. Luckily, none of us have to go to cocktail parties right now.
Mm.
Us don't. But meaning in our social milieu, people, what is your job? How are you? What's your deal? What's your tagline? And so it can feel really uncomfortable when we don't know. But the chrysalis time is a part of normal life. There's seasons of it for all of us. And we want to accept it when it comes. But also in that post, I talk about when we're in one of those in-betweens, it's not that there's nothing we can do. We can do things that accelerate that movement forward. And the way I think of that acceleration is whatever's sort of roaming beneath the surface, which for all of us on any day is a lot, right? Feelings, concerns, ambivalence about things. Oh, there's that problematic situation brewing over there. How do we surface all that so we can move through it? And we can do that by journaling about it more. We can do it by talking those things through with a coach or a therapist or a good friend. We want to start to bring up and name what's present in our lives.
Do you think that I just started working with, I guess, a leadership coach or a business coach, and it's really changed everything for me. And then I discovered you through this person and all of that sort of stuff. I never really considered working with somebody like that before. So when a woman decides that she wants to do the things that you're talking about, maybe needs some help with that, what are some things that a leadership coach or a business coach or a life coach, what did those people do?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, I'll say this just to start with about coaching. I grew up, I was always so fascinated by what makes us tick, what makes us not tick, and how our inner lives impact our outer lives. And I had a mom who was also really interested in psychology. And so my upbringing was, analyzing my dreams at the breakfast table every morning. And I can remember saying, this boy teased me on the schoolyard at recess in kindergarten. And she just said, well, honey, what do you think's going on for him at home that would make him tease another kid? So that's how I was raised. And I was always really interested in wanting to learn more. And the obvious path was to become a therapist then. But I kept on thinking, well, I don't really want to just sit in an office one-on-one with people talking about their problems and looking for diagnoses and being in a very cerebral place. And then I discovered coaching, which was a way of working with people around their inner lives and their outer lives. But the primary emphasis tends to be more forward looking rather than looking to the past for answers. We're more looking at how can we shape the future. And we're not doing that in a pathology framework. So even if you feel functional in your life and you feel have a basic level of health, this is about what does thriving look like? What does living by your values look like? So I think it's a great thing for people to do at any point in their life. A big misconception that people have is that a coach is going to be an advisor or a mentor. And there are people out there who call themselves coaches who are doing that. But for most well-trained coaches, we understand that's actually the opposite of what we're doing. We are bringing tools and questions to help our clients find their own answers. And that's actually a real skill, because if I'm working, let's say, with you, the question is, how do we get you in your clearest, strongest space where you do know the answer to the dilemma, right? Where you do know what path you want to take. And there's lots of ways that we can help you get there consistently. And then, of course, it's also about support and accountability over time. So it's not just that one conversation, but if you're making a commitment in a coaching session to do something, somebody's checking in with you the next week, which we know we humans need each other in that way.
We do. And you bring up something that I don't know how comfortable you are answering this, but what I find that women, sometimes we can be our own worst enemies to each other. And it's, I always feel like we've been told somewhere along the line, or again, maybe it's just this long history of us knowing or thinking that there's not enough for all of us. So we look at each other as competition, especially in a workplace.
Yes. You know, it's really common that when I'm speaking to a group of women about their own empowerment or development, the very first question, someone will raise their hand and kind of say, yeah, Tara, but why is the meanest boss I ever had a woman? And often people will ask that question with tears in their eyes. Like, I thought I was going to have the mentor. I was so excited to finally have this amazing woman boss, and it was the worst experience. So here's what I have to say about that. As women, we will never support in another woman what we do not support in ourselves. Yeah. It's
Wow.
a shocker. It's important. We'll never allow in another woman what we don't allow in ourselves.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not, I think a really common one is I'm a senior woman and I've had to fight my battles. I've had to maybe cut off my femininity. I've had to put my kids second. I've had to swallow my emotions. And now I have a millennial in front of me who's telling me, they want to leave early to take care of their nephew. Well, if I haven't healed that pain myself and really processed the push down feelings around that, I am going to want to, I don't want to see that. I don't want to hear about it. No, my internal, I'm actually triggered by the person even asking that question.
Yeah, when you look at it through that lens, that really changes a lot. How that is fascinating. That's a lot to think about right there.
Well, and it hopefully means that when we find, I think I say to women, anytime, if you're ever thinking that someone else some other woman is abrasive or bossy, or, we can insert the profanity words that we would often use there, that is time to go look inside yourself. What is she showing up for that I'm uncomfortable within myself? Where's the boss? Where's the part of me that I'm constantly saying, don't say that, you're going to be perceived as bossy? That's the part that has to get looked at and healed so you can celebrate that woman in her voice.
That's amazing. I also want to mention, Tara, that TELUS is a company that loves to give back, and I know that, especially to communities they care about. You're international, so we, on behalf of you, the TELUS Talks podcast is donating $500 to the TELUS Friendly Future Foundation, and it's a foundation that has really helped about 2 million at-risk Canadians and put nearly $10 million towards COVID-19 relief efforts. So we're making that donation on your behalf.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really good because, we talk about, in talking about women and supporting each other, and, it's important for us to always be giving back. And I will say that, working closely with a coach, you do have to peel back those layers of how you feel about women and how you're willing to, like, my coach is very similar to you. Her name's Jennifer, and you're both just so nice and positive, and it's almost like you're not real because you're so, do you know what I mean? And a lot of women aren't used to women like you who are
Hmm.
just so open, and you want to see somebody succeed. You want to see somebody be better. This is refreshing.
Well, that's lovely to hear. And I do think it's one of the benefits of a coach or a therapist can play this role is these are people who aren't tied up in your life, right? Like your mom or your sister or your friends, they have their picture of who you were, right? That they're walking with. They have maybe a picture of who they want you to be. They have fears for you that they might get triggered. And so the coach, when you get trained as a coach, you really learn how to drop any particular agenda you might have for a client, how to show up with curiosity, how to do really attentive listening. I'll always in when a coaching program that when I was doing my training, there was a woman from the Midwest of the U.S. who had flown out to California for the training, and I remember one day after all the jargon, she just said, we all know this really is coaching is just a real special way to love people, and there's a truth to that. It is a type of love. It comes with certain skills and tools to help manifest that love, but yeah, that's the place a coach should be coming from. And if you're not feeling that, that's worth paying attention to.
Yeah, you need a different coach. Okay, so let's talk about 10 rules for brilliant women. When I am feeling not so good or having a bad day, I have this bookmarked and I go and I read the 10 rules for brilliant women. So you teach a lot, or you work with a lot of brilliant women, and you have found that most of them don't even know their own brilliance.
Yes, for sure, for sure. So, and when I say brilliant, sometimes that can activate inner critic for people. Like, I didn't get the score on my math test to make me brilliant. And no, we do mean you. I mean you if you're listening. I'm talking about what we all know and see in the women in our lives and our friends and our colleagues, which is the talents, the generosity of spirit, the unique gifts that each person brings. That we're brilliant and the world needs our brilliance. And we're in a very strange historical moment where we're moving out of, and hopefully continuing to move out of, this long period where women's brilliance was so shut down and marginalized and tamped out of public life and professional life and political life. And so, as we were talking about before, it is loaded and scary for us to really show up with our voices, with our ideas. So I wrote those 10 rules early on, actually, in doing this work. And I had just had a coaching session with someone where I couldn't have shooken her by the shoulders and said, here's 10 rules for you to follow, because I was wearing my coaching hat. I was asking her
Right.
good questions and I was showing up with that gentleness. But when I got home, I thought, what do I really want her and women like her to know? And I wouldn't separate myself from that. I at that point was also like, I want to write, but I have an inner critic that makes it hard. And why don't I feel more confident? So I was also talking to myself. I was talking to my mom, of like women in my life, like, how do we step forward more?
And it's interesting because it's not like, I mean, they're rules, but they're also they're points that
They're
make you, and you don't even have to use all 10 of them. They're there for the picking as you need them.
Yes.
And that's
You have
what I
a
find
favorite?
so, um, I like the pact,
Make a pact with
make
yourself.
a
Yeah.
pact with
Yeah.
yourself. And
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Yeah. So that's about, making a pact that really what we were speaking about, of getting back on your own side, that make a pact to be on your own side, and no one around you may understand the life you're going for. They probably won't. It's not their vision. It's not their path, but you can see it and you can believe in it. And that can be true even if you can't see how it's all going to play out. Like, I often talk about the foggy path, and I picture it like it's a cobblestone path and it's densely foggy, San Francisco fog, like where I am, where we don't get to see the shape of the path. We don't get to see where there's going to be a curve and how long exactly it's going to take, but we can usually see the next cobblestone right in front of our feet. We can see the decision that moves us in the direction of our dreams, and that's enough. It's enough to do those one at a time.
And, you know, I mean, I could just have you read the book to me right now and I would be so happy. But when I think about, all of the things that we've spoken about here, and there's so much more, and I encourage everybody to go to your website because it's easy to get there. It's taramohr.com, which is TARMOHR.com. And the rules are there, everything is there. But if you were, is this a time right now? So if women are listening right now, we're in a pandemic. The world is so uncertain. Everything is worrisome, it seems. Is this a good time to, is this a good time for us to work on ourselves? Can we
Hmm.
do this in this time?
Or do we have any choice not to? Right? I mean, I think a lot of us, it's if we struggle with overeating or over drinking or anxiety or um, turning to blaming our partner, probably all of that is getting exacerbated during this time. And so we may very likely need to step up all the things we do to support ourselves. I know that's been true for me. I mean, I'm doing more just reflective writing and reading spiritual literature and more time moving my body than I did before, because I find just to kind of stay at a healthy baseline, I need more. But the other thing I would say is I think in terms of not feeling hopelessness right now, it's a really important time to be asking, how do I want to contribute? Whether that's where am I sending my money, or what am I writing to my government about, or is there a little volunteering I can do? Particularly when the pandemic first hit, one of the things my community and we talked about a lot and focused on a lot was every day asking, what's something I can do to be of service today? Because being of service is one of the most powerful antidotes to fear, because we get out of ourselves and we get out of our rumination. And we get all the good feedback loops that come from that feeling of connection and knowing we helped someone. So in that sense, it's also a really important time to not just be nurturing ourselves, but really being intentional about making the contribution we want to make.
That's amazing. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to speak to us. You have courses that are available on your website for people that are in coaching and want to play big and get that training, or people like everyday people like me who I have put my name on the wait list or whatever for your next one in 2021. And you're inspiring, Tara, and you are, your book is great. It's a game changer. It really, truly is.
Thank you for all the kind words. I'm so moved that it's been helpful to you. And
well, listen, I'm a big fan, as you can tell. And I was like, let's see if we can get Tara Moore. And you said yes. So I'm pretty happy about it. So thank you so much. And again, Tara's website is taramoore.com. And you can also follow her on Instagram, which is Tara Sophia Moore. And she has all her photos there and everything you need to know. Lots of inspiration. Thanks again, Tara.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to another episode of TELUS Talks with Tamara Taggart. Be sure to subscribe so you can join us every Tuesday for another conversation. You can also check out our website, telus.com/podcast, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at TELUS Talks.